spoke Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita to Arjun on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And when it comes to a scripture which was spoken in 45 minutes to Arjuna, with the desired result that he understood that message, it is not quite likely for us. It may take years to understand and be able to apply what that essence of Bhagavad Gita is. Over the hundreds of years of parampara system in India, in which various Vaishnavas have read Bhagavad Gita and practiced its teachings, there are Vaishnava Acharyas. Acharyas are those who exemplify the Shastras by their life examples. Acharyas have the authority to comment on scriptures. And they have that authority because they have followed their authorities very nicely. They have not only heard the theory, but they have seen the practical and they have practiced it themselves. So that realized knowledge they are able to share. So I thought that in this very nice occasion of Mokshada Ekadashi, I would try to bring up what is that essence of Bhagavad Gita purely based on what I have heard from my seniors. So, talking about the essence of Bhagavad Gita, I would like to present first commentaries of various acharyas on this particular aspect. What is the essence of Bhagavad Gita? Then, jumping too early, let me ask this. So this is no news to most of us. I was very carefully watching if there is anyone who's visiting our temple for the first time. So we must have an idea. Everyone has been to the temple before. What is the essence of Bhagavad Gita? There is one verse from 18th chapter. What is it? 18 dot? Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. It's 18.66. It is about abandon all varieties of religions and just surrender unto me. That is what Krishna is saying. So, in Bhagavad Gita, surrender does not come only in 18th chapter. It comes at many places, out of which primarily there are 3 places. So, I'm going to talk about those 3 themes of what it means to surrender according to Bhagavad Gita. So, 3 themes of surrendering in Bhagavad Gita. And then finally, I would like to close it with unraveling the line of surrender, what it means, what it boils down to for us. Okay, so this is what I'm going to speak on today. First, commentaries by various acharyas. Sripad Ramanujacharya. Sripad Ramanujacharya was the first to mention that in Bhagavad Gita, the crest jewel, the charam shloka of Bhagavad Gita is 18.66. This verse. So we will take a look at this verse. It is also called Paribhasha Sutra. Paribhasha Sutra is that shloka of any shastra, which is that one shloka or a set of shlokas that gives the primary definition and the content or the purpose of that shastra. Every other shloka can be tied into it. If we could make a logical hierarchy of everything that was spoken and connected to each other through logical thoughts, the top one shloka which binds everything around it, that is called Paribhasha Sutra or Charam Shloka. Charam means at the top, right? So it is Sripad Ramanujacharya, because of which you and I, we have heard that 18.66, I could not find any commentaries before this if anybody quoted 18.66 to be the Charam Shloka of Bhagavad Gita. After this, in chronological order, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, okay, he considers the following 2 verses, which one? 18.65, the previous verse, and 18.66 as the servants of bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada also calls them the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So all the more reason to let's look into what 18.65 and 18.66 are talking about. But one final, while we are on this topic, I thought I'll also try to look into entire, just quickly browse through, is there any other mention by Srila Prabhupada in his purports on the essence? So here's that list. First, in 10.14, Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, opulence of the absolute, Arjuna says this. Arjuna says, and for the respecting the time, I'm only putting the translation here. He says, "Oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth everything that you are telling me. I accept it. Everything. Neither the demigods nor the demons, oh Lord, can understand your personality." In that, Srila Prabhupada writes in the explanation, the purport to that shloka, that the acceptance by Arjuna of all that Krishna says should also be emulated by us. We should also do that. Accept what Krishna is saying completely. Then we can understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And then a very beautiful shloka, which, because I was submissively hearing to one of my senior God brothers, I learned it. I always skipped this, or somehow I missed this. It's the 11.55, a surprising verse in the center. We all said 18.66. I know 11.55. This is a verse where Krishna is saying, "My dear Arjun, he who engages in my pure devotional service." How is it pure? Because it is free from contaminations of fruitive activities, karma, karma yoga, occupational duties, and mental speculations, jnana, right? He who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life. Supreme goal of my life is Krishna. One who does that, who works for me, changes his plan to working for Krishna, full-time employed for Krishna, and who is friendly to every living being, Suhridam, he certainly comes to me. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Indeed, after that, Srila Prabhupada says about 18.65 and 66, that these are the ultimate purpose. So we are going to look into that. And finally, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, right? Where there is Krishna, to fully surrender. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport of the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, to fully surrender unto Krishna is the highest perfection of human life. This is the essence of teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So without further ado, it's time for 18.65 and 18.66. Let's recite them. Please repeat after me. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vashyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Request if somebody can read the translation for us.
Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer my homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend.
Hare Krishna. Very instructive. Krishna says, think of me, become my devotee, right? And we will continue to see 18.66. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. One second, Prabhuji. Can read.
All varieties that you do. And just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Just surrender unto me. That is the message that Krishna is giving. Well, this is the point. This is the word. If I can understand what it means to surrender to Krishna, then I'm understanding the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And that's why I would like to move our direction of this discussion on this. Just surrender unto me. This is what Krishna is saying. In 18.66, Krishna just said, surrender unto me. I'll take care of everything. I'll protect you. What happened once when somebody in a spiritual conference was presented with this idea, they were a little confused. When have we heard this word surrender? The word surrender comes that, okay, there was such a such fight going on, or there was a war happening, and at some point the opponent surrendered, right? That's what we have heard. So in this spiritual conference, this person, he asked the monks present over there, well, I'm not at war with Krishna. So I don't understand, why do I need to surrender? I'm not at war with Krishna. I'm not fighting him. So what is this surrender? And so the answer is that there is something called martial surrender, which is in the battlefield. Why does martial surrender happens? Why does, when two parties are at war, one of the party decides to surrender? The reason is they realize that the opponent is too powerful. And they have no option now, no choice left. What is the result of such surrender? It's not a pleasant result of such surrender. They have to compromise, they have to do this, whatnot. And the other guy is like, yes, I won, right? That is not the surrender that Bhagavad Gita is talking about. Bhagavad Gita is talking about devotional surrender. So this is point number one. Now we move our focus to devotional surrender. What does that mean? Devotional surrender, the reason when somebody surrenders to someone in love is not frustration, it is affection. For example, somebody may say, your wish is my command. Right? What does that mean? It means I want to please you. So let me put my plan aside. You say, what should we do? Right? This is a surrender. It's not forced. It's voluntary. Right? So what is the result of such a surrender? The message of Bhagavad Gita that we are talking about here of devotional surrender, it tells in the last verse of chapter 5 that Krishna is the Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarva Bhutana. The message of Bhagavad Gita, please hear it carefully, dear devotees, that God is our greatest well-wisher. He is our friend, Suhridam Sarva Bhutana. And because he is our greatest well-wisher, he wants best for us. More than what we can even imagine and ask for ourselves, Krishna knows what is best for us. So when we harmonize with devotional surrender to Krishna, that Krishna, let your will reign supreme. Let me follow your plan. When we harmonize with this divine plan, it takes us to the best possible future for us. Devotional service, devotional surrender, in that sense, is very different in its cause and consequence, in its reason and its result from the martial surrender. Are you with me so far? Haribol. So, of this devotional surrender, I'm going to pick up 3 themes from Bhagavad Gita. First, theme of surrender in Bhagavad Gita comes in many locations, but the very first one is the very problem statement of Bhagavad Gita. Why was Bhagavad Gita spoken? Why did Krishna speak Bhagavad Gita? There was a problem, there was a question, and Bhagavad Gita was the answer to it. What was that? That was chapter 2, verse 7 by Arjuna. Arjuna is getting confused. This is the problem statement of Bhagavad Gita. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava Prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetah Yajreyasya nishtitam bruhi tanme Shishyaste ham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Now, I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. This was the reason I got on this topic in first place. See here, Arjuna is in a place where he's saying, I'm a soul surrendered unto you. I'm surrendering. The word prapannam means surrender. Okay. So just imagine prapannam, surrender. Arjuna is confused, right? And let me build upon it. First, let me explain why is he confused, just to give, if Arjuna is a reasonable person, imagine a person who is in security, let's say national security. He is already established. I'm just trying to rank it up to where Arjuna was in his life at that point. The entire society depends upon him. He has been entrusted with protecting the society. And let's say this person, he is in FBI of US or NIA of India, and that kind of organization. He is working on a case. It is of such a great national importance that he has been given full authority to slay the aggressor. As soon as the culprit is caught, he has the permission to shoot them at sight. And he is chasing down the face of that culprit. That criminal is about to be revealed. The door opens, he pulls his gun, and he sees that his own relative, father, brother, or son, is standing in front of him. On one hand, he has the responsibility that he's the martial guardian of the society, and his job is to punish this aggressor. And on the other hand, he sees that this very aggressor is his relative. What an ethical conflict, especially for those who uphold ethics, right? Then what should I do? This was his confusion. So surrender here means to gain knowledge amidst confusion. I don't know what to do and I want to gain knowledge. Intelligence is described by many definitions, and one of the definitions of intelligence is to know what to do when you don't know what to do. Intelligence is to know what to do when you don't know what to do. Okay, what does that mean? It means, whom should I turn to when I don't know what I should do? If I have one person in my life, whenever I'm in that situation, he's my 1-800 helpline number. Prabhuji, please tell me, this is the situation, right? That is surrender. So now I'll come back to that same point. We understood a part definition of Arjuna's surrender. But now let's try to think of this situation from Krishna's point of view. I don't know if any one of you have been in a point where you ever tried to convince someone. For me, I could say anybody who's married, they have this situation that they have to convince the other party at least once in their life, right? And I'm trying to think now if I ever had to do that before getting married. Okay. But yes, decision making, right? Wherever there's decision making, whenever you take up a position of responsibility, there may be peers or there are people under you or people above you. And at least in the first two cases, you may have to convince somebody. So imagine this situation from Krishna's point of view. Arjuna is saying, hey, I'm confused. I am surrendering to you. Arjuna does not know the answer. Krishna knows the answer, right? That what he's going to say in the 18th verse. So 18.66 can be a perfect answer to this verse, right? Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashyami ma shuchra. Just Arjuna, I see you are perplexed. You have already asked a lot of questions. We are in the middle of a battlefield. It's about to start, right? Just forget everything. I am God. obey me, fight. 18.66, it's over. This is one of the most important lessons that I learned. Krishna did not jump to the last message of surrender. Krishna led Arjuna through a process of philosophical and moral deliberation. Krishna could have finished the Bhagavad Gita in 6 words. I am God, obey me, fight. But Krishna is not addressing that apparent circumstance. He is exemplifying that a framework of philosophical and moral reasoning should be there by which the seeker can arrive at the proper understanding. Krishna says, Aham bija pradah pitah. I am the father. If you are a father and you want your children to be Krishna consciousness, this is the most important lesson to learn from Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes we try to use that dogma of I am father, I am telling you, chant. Right? And which is good, which is fine. Right? We are not on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, thankfully. But the point is, if we want our children to take up Krishna consciousness, then we need to provide them an environment where they can arrive at that understanding. When somebody arrives at the understanding by reasoning, philosophical and moral reasoning, that Krishna consciousness is the best thing for me, they will never give it up. That is the entire reason Krishna chose not to hurry Arjuna into the battlefield, into that war, but give him time to arrive at that conclusion. Sorry. So it could never be more urgent for us than this, that I keep exercising that dogma, right? This is one of the most important lessons that I learned from this while going through this. So the 2.7 talks about a surrender for guidance. Surrender here means I want to gain knowledge amidst confusion. This process of learning begins with humility, prayerful submission. Surrender to teachings of Krishna. A pitfall that I must mention, this surrender does not mean that we are outsourcing the responsibility of decision making to God. When we pray to Krishna, we are not saying, oh, I'm praying to Krishna, I don't know what to do. So Krishna, now you please give me some magical hint, something, do something mystical, something magical. Give me some hint. That is not what surrender for guidance means. Surrender does not mean we take that responsibility away from us. I can just hold this properly. That's okay. I'll just hold this properly. My hands are.
Can you try this one?
Otherwise, this is fine. Just hold it like that. You know. Alright. This is fine. Perfect. That's okay. We don't need the structures. Yeah. So when we pray, Hare Krishna. So when we pray, what should happen? When we pray, we are not praying that Krishna, now giving it to you. No, we are praying that let me open my heart and open my intelligence to the divine guidance. What does that mean practically? Practically, it means connecting to those who are spiritually wiser than us. It's a very important point, spiritually wiser than us. Many a times, we keep this jurisdiction finally in our hands. You know, the divine guidance, the entire idea of opening our heart when I'm praying to Krishna is to understand, and we will talk in detail why. The second reason will reveal why it is very important to connect to those who are not just materially wiser. The point is not that find someone materially wiser and they will help you. If Arjuna would have walked over to any diplomat, any warrior at that time to present his situation, he would have gotten probably a materially expert answer to what should he do about the fighting. he would not have reached the conclusion that he reached after hearing Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita introduces a topic in our life that we have never thought of. When we are going about living our lives, we never introduce spirituality as an alternate to our material problems. How many times we thought, apart from just that thing that, yeah, now I cannot solve my material problem, so now I'll go stand in front of Krishna, wait for him to do his spiritual magic. That is not the message of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is saying, you start considering spiritual solutions for your material problems. And to consider that, we must approach those who are spiritually wiser than us. The problem that Arjuna had over here was not a spiritual problem that, Prabhu Krishna, I am not able to chant my rounds properly. What should I do? What should I do? Hare Krishna. Don't. So, for his material problems, Krishna is providing a spiritual solution. That is 2.7. That's what we can learn from that. When you don't know what is the right thing to do, know what to do. Open up to divine guidance. Are you with me so far? Very good. So the second verse that we are going to take for today is 7.14. This also has a mention of surrender, and we are going to see what that is. Devi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam taranti te.
This divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So now the second one is about the great illusion. It is said that this world is a place of experimentation. Everybody has come in this world to experiment. Experiment what? What will make me happy and content? What will satisfy me? That's why we all came to this world. It provides a perfect place for you to experiment what will make you happy. Exercise our free will for anything. This free will is given to us for loving someone, loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for loving God. Because this is not something which can be forced upon someone. Love cannot be forced. It has to be voluntary. So there is this free will given. But because it is our choice, whether we want to love or we want to try something else, the try something else option, if we choose, we end up in this playground of experiments. And you can be here as long as you want, and as long as you want to experience this idea of enjoying different things, until Guru comes and introduces this idea back to you that your existence, your nature, what satisfies you, like water satisfies a fish, nothing else, what satisfies you is Krishna Prema only. Until then, you can keep going on experimenting. And what is the result of such experimenting? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jadhare shayanam, ihad samsare, bahudustare, kripaya pare, pahi murare. Yes. So, it's the continuous cycle of birth and death. If in a school, somebody flunks a grade, they do not succeed, what happens? They have to repeat it. So if there is repeated cycle of birth and death, if you believe in that, if you do not believe, then we'll have to go back to some more basic conversations of proving near-death experience and afterlife and books and everything to reinforce our understanding that there is reincarnation. But if you have that faith already that there is reincarnation, then you must know that we are repeating something because we have not attained the goal of that. we have not attained the goal of life. That's why we have to repeat in that grade again and again. And what is that purpose of life that is not getting fulfilled? We are not taking up to understanding that loving God gives me perfect fulfillment. The cycle of birth and death continues as long as we want to experiment with what will make me happy. And for that, we can take an example of something that affects our identity, who you are so strongly. First is money. Money is supposed to be the means of living. But if you do not have a strong reason to put your consciousness into spiritual progress for self-realization, it will become purpose of your living. We will become money-making robots. As long as I can make money, I am valid. The day society says you can no more earn money, I retire, now I'm invalid, and that is who I am. It becomes indicative of not our net worth, but of our self-worth. If I have money, I walk into, even if it is a place, I don't want to first categorize it, where there are 50 people sitting, I walk into that, especially if there is a big parity between the financial status that I believe I am in and others, I carry myself that, okay, this is who I am. Even if it was, like we have in India, we have tribal care now, right? Imagine there are kirtaniyas sitting over there doing kirtan. Our false ego is so strong that we have this tendency to look ourselves from the eyes of where money has put us. And it is such a thing that those who don't have it, they want it. And those who have it, what happens to them? They want it more. So it's an insatiable craving, blinding us to the reality of purpose of our life and our real identity. The same is with sensual pleasure. So a very important point on sensual pleasure now. Sensual pleasure, let's say that it's a Maha Janmashtami festival and everybody is celebrating, and this year the desserts are unlimited. So we ended up making 5,000 gulab jamuns for 200 people, right? So everybody can eat up to 40 gulab jamuns. Okay, now there are two parts to it. Please see very carefully. One, the 30 gulab jamun, 40 gulab jamuns in front of you, the first gulab jamun and the 30th gulab jamun, there is no difference between them. Okay, the cook put sugar only in that. No mistakes there. It tastes exactly the same, consistency is the same. Okay, so nothing is changing there. Done. How many gulab jamuns can you eat? 5, 8, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, let's say. Okay. On 40th gulab jamun or 39th gulab jamun, I'm covering everyone's appetite. Mine is probably, I don't know, 3, 4 maybe. On 39th gulab jamun, or for realistic example, 3rd or 4th gulab jamun, you say, I cannot eat anymore. Now, here's a very important point. The gulab jamun has not changed. We already established that. What is changing is that the pleasure lies in two places. Please note, pleasure lies in two places. One, it lies in that very object. Okay, gulab jamun, which is called the sense object. The other lies in our perception, in our imagination. The other part of pleasure lies in our imagination. This is where Krishna says, intelligence comes from me. Not quoting that slok right now, 15.15, but Krishna says that intelligence comes from me. Human beings like gulab jamun, tigers don't like gulab jamun. Tigers like eating raw meat, right? Who's giving that intelligence? Krishna is saying it comes from me. Sarva sachaham riddhi sanvishto, right? So, as soon as the reality strikes, reality hits the imagination, imagination gets depleted. Any sort of enjoyment or sense gratification that you can imagine, any of it, the moment reality hits it, it depletes away our imagination. So the reality of gulab jamun hits your tongue. 1, 2, 3, it starts depleting your imagination that this thing will give me happiness. And that's why it gets depleted. As soon as that imagination gets depleted, the pleasure also gets depleted. Pleasure starts going away. Gulab jamuns did not change. Your perception, your imagination of that joy changed, and that's why that joy is gone. And this is the nature of this world. This is the great illusion created by Maya. This is Krishna's illusory energy. So what Krishna says is, you turn to Krishna for highest fulfillment. The fulfillment that you are seeking in this world, you turn to Krishna's love. So this is all copy paste from another godmother of mine. That's how I'm speaking all this. So he quotes that there is some pop singer. He has this song, "You treat me badly, I love you madly." So, example, liquor, an addict knows that the liquor is damaging him, but he continues to madly run after the liquor. Even though he knows that it is wrong, it is harming him, he continues to go after that. That is how these addictions are. And in lesser degree, everything that we are running after, they are like that only. Otherwise, as soon as the reality of spiritual knowledge will hit, we should have given everything up, right? The problem is that in small degrees, and that is more dangerous. Because if there is a very high addiction, it becomes so apparent that now I need to do something about it because it's emergency. Things are on fire. I need to do something. I'll go around. I'll talk to 100 people how to fix this. When the problems are really small, they are addictive equally, but we don't address them. Right? So even if one tries to give up damaging addiction, what happens? You try to give up the damaging addiction, the illusion stays on. And that's why if you want to counteract the illusion, Krishna says, way out of illusion is that are tormenting you is you surrender. So this is the second type of surrender. What is that? Holding on to Krishna through devotional service. Hold on to Krishna through devotional service. You can't fight against tides in an ocean. There's no chance if I'm in the middle of the ocean and waves are just coming and going, I cannot fight and try to go across the current, and where would I go, right? But if you can hold on to an anchor, you can avoid getting swept away by it. We can't fight against the illusions by focusing on illusion. Let's say you are addicted to gulab jamuns and you have it in your hand. The point here that is being made is, by keep looking on to that I will control myself, I will not eat this gulab jamun. If you continue to focus like this, you will perpetually fail. You won't be able to defeat that temptation by looking at that temptation. That temptation will defeat your determination. Okay. And that's why the solution to get out of, and this is very consistent, this is universal. If you go to any of those addiction asylums where they try to get people out of addiction, they also follow Bhagavad Gita. That is to direct our focus to something higher, something fulfilling. That is the solution. And so practically, Bhakti Yoga enables us to focus our consciousness on God. We chant the holy names, we hear Krishna Katha, we serve the deities, we associate with the devotees. This is holding on to the anchor. This is surrender to Krishna for highest fulfillment. Are you with me? Rivo. So we have seen two. First was ignorance of the right thing to do. I don't know what to do. Surrender is open to guidance. Second, I know what is right thing to do, but the illusion is stopping me. It is making me, it's my inability to do the right thing even when I know what is the right thing to do. This is called fallen condition, patita. We have Shri Nitai Patit Pavan Gaura Hari. Gaura Hari, he is liberating those who are patita, fallen. What is that fallen? The definition of fallen is those people who know what is the right thing to do, but they are not able to do that. Okay. So surrender in this is holding on to Krishna through devotional service. Don't fight with illusions. Fight to hold on to Krishna, and Krishna will fight with the illusions. Very good. So with that, I'll come to the last verse, which is 18.66. So we saw, I don't know the right thing to do, surrender in that condition. I know what is right, but I am unable to do. So surrender in that condition. Continue, hold on to Krishna. And the final one. What is the final one? The essence of Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityajya. Abandon all varieties of religion. So what happens is in this state, now the jnana has also come. You know there are hundreds of dharmas, there are hundreds of right things to do. The biggest problem of people who are kind, who are not going to jail, who are very nice in the society is that they have their own plan of life. I know what is the right thing to do. So I have many perceptions of what dharma is, and I am already executing them. What is Krishna saying? Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. So you are already having a plan. Now Krishna wants you to switch your plan. Okay. My plan? No. Right now the problem of the society, even for those who are theistic, are that it's my plan of life. Once in a while I include Krishna. Okay, I am trying to make this. And I'll tell you, Krishna, when I need your help, when I need a helping hand, yeah, can you hold this one for me over here while I try to go ahead with my plan? That is how we try to include Krishna. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Krishna is saying, you come on my plan. Okay. Give up those perceptions and take up to God's will. So we have boiled it down to now God's will. Let's try to get into this. There are different aspects of understanding what is God's will. The most universal of them is, what does Krishna want? Krishna, like any other loving father, wants you to maximize your potential. If my son could go to kindergarten and pass because he's in 3rd standard, he could go to 1st standard or 2nd grade or 3rd grade right now, up to best of his ability. I want him to go to 3rd grade. I don't want him to go into any of the other lower ones. He can, but I know he will pass. That is not what I want. I want him to progress. And that's why Krishna wants that we utilize our human life. What is the highest human potential that one can do? What is the highest that a human can achieve? You could become a cricketer. Oh no, but it's higher than that. You could become a president of the country. Wait, that is only for 4 years. You will get to know that again, we are coming back to, if spirituality has not been introduced in our plan, then we are missing the link. We are missing the purpose of human life. Spirituality has to be introduced, and that is the highest human potential. No other species of life can attain that. The highest ability of human being is to attain spiritual perfection. Use all our abilities for Krishna's cause. Do what we can with what we have. Doing what we can with what we have for Krishna. Don't resent the situation you are in. Serve the humanity in that situation. Difficulties come for everyone, good or bad. But what differentiates us wise is that wise people always try to do the best in the difficult situation. If we are not wise, then we will make the things worse only. So, coming back to summarizing this once again, the underlying theme that was happening amidst all this was that happiness does not depend on what we have. It depends on how we use what we have. Fulfillment, satisfaction comes when we take responsibility of using those things, our abilities and our skills for Krishna. Therefore, Krishna's will, his message in Bhagavad Gita, if you go through it, you will see the very first is this is spiritual purpose, connect back to Krishna and devotion. You will see that. And the second is service. Whatever situation we are in, act in a way which make things better for you and better for the society. Right. So I have one last point, as I mentioned. Are you with me so far, or any comments so far? Haribol. So maybe questions I can do right after this. I wanted to talk about unraveling now this line of surrender, bring it more down to the reality, the ground reality, what it means to surrender to Krishna. I'll go quick on this. First, surrender to Krishna means surrendering to the instructions of Krishna given in Bhagavad Gita. Simple. I'm not going to quote examples. I'm assuming this is self-explanatory. So surrendering to the instructions of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, there are two ways. Either you pick up the Bhagavad Gita and you want to follow those instructions, you start with the self, or you start in a guided way. So in guided way also there is self-study. In self way also there is self-study, but in guided way you are hearing also from somebody who has heard Bhagavad Gita, who has practiced Bhagavad Gita, who has the experience, practical knowledge of that. Now I start studying myself, I run into confusion or a question or even validation. What I read, did I understood it right? What happens then? If you are in guidance, you have an option for submissive inquiry. But if you are on your own, you will replace it with your own speculation. There's a red flag right there, right? The speculation about what? A non-observable science. Matter, at least there is observable science. After 20 years, you can correct your mistake. On non-observable science, that is not an option. Until you get the guidance, it would remain a wrong speculation only. And then there's a verse 4.34. This will directly contradict if somebody thinks that they can surrender to Krishna and to instructions of Krishna written in Bhagavad Gita by simply reading them. So in 4.34, Krishna is saying, Tadvidhi, thank you, Prabhuji. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya updekshanti te jnanam jnanena tattva darshana. At more than two places, Krishna says understanding the karma and akarma, material activities and spiritual activities, what is sacrifice, what is not sacrifice, different types of sacrifices that can lead to yoga is difficult. The intricacies are difficult. So what should you do? Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Approach a spiritual master. So if we are sincere students of Bhagavad Gita, then it behooves us that we approach a spiritual master so that we can surrender to Krishna. The realized souls can impart knowledge unto us because they have seen the truth. So once again, I am modifying this. Surrender to Krishna means surrendering to instructions of Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, which means surrender to a spiritual master and surrender to instructions of the spiritual master, Guru. What are the instructions of spiritual master? This is where I have one question. And that question is, we started on Bhagavad Gita right away, right? With so many settings that we are already sitting in. But my question is, how many of us knew about Mokshada Ekadashi, that Bhagavad Gita was spoken and the contents of Bhagavad Gita before you came to an ISKCON temple? So, why this is happening, why there are ISKCON temples, and why we are reaching out to people? Earlier, it was not like this. You had to go to places of pilgrimage, you had to fall down 100 times, make mistakes, approach bogus sadhus and then find a real sadhu, then ask them, serve them humbly, then they will tell you one instruction on what you should do with your life. That is not the case for most of us. We have not gone out and done hard labor to find even a drop of spirituality somewhere. But so much great wisdom is coming to us. This is because Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started Sankirtan movement 500 plus years ago. And it is his desire to connect us back to Krishna. Who brought Bhagavad Gita into our lives? We should all ask that. Maybe it was a devotee. It was a Path Pradarshak Guru. Right? So I will move on. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started the Sankirtan movement 500 plus years ago. And in this movement, it is the purpose of it is to make our lives perfect by bringing Krishna into our lives. By chanting the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. By hearing about Krishna, by feasting on Krishna Prasad, and by dancing on the Kirtan of the holy names of Krishna. This is nothing but performing devotional service in the association of devotees. These are simple instructions of spiritual master. So the line of surrender, it boils down to this, right? There is Krishna, and all our prayers should be directed to him. We should be devoted to him. But the real direct connection to Krishna can only happen through a spiritual master. Surrender to the instructions of spiritual master results in service, real tangible service. That is surrender. And it means to serve Krishna at home and in temple to the best of our abilities, with the best of the resources that we have. To follow the authorities, serve them, and inquire submissively from our seniors, and to associate with devotees and develop loving relationships. If you want to attain this, you need to start at the bottom of this slide. You have to start from association of the devotees, develop loving relationships, then relationship to the authority, serving them, inquiring submissively, right? Then trying to serve in the temple to the best of our ability, then serving the Guru, connection, feeling that connection to the Guru. The Guru is pleased as soon as we are following Guru's instruction. This is the line of surrender. I would end with just one last point on this. I'm really thankful to you. There are several challenges on this, and those challenges could be many. It could be distractions because there are confusing priorities. There could be isolation in westernized social culture that is there, and lack of motivation and enthusiasm. What is the solution? I would already have taken so much time, so I would just give a very broad but one-liner and pakka solution to that for leaving it for our endeavors. No lecture can address your problems unless it was very exhaustive and covered 100 topics. The easiest is you just take association of devotees, and everything happens in that. So with that, I would like to stop here, and thank you for your very kind audience. Any comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji,
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you so much for this enlightening comments. And you said, right, that connecting to those who are spiritually wiser than you. So if you ask me, everybody is wiser than me. So, but what happens when you ask the same question to like 4 people, like 4 devotees, you get different answers.
Yeah.
So how do we know like which is, and everybody is, it's not in the same line. Down to the other different.
So there are 2 ways to understand that. The first, which directly addresses what you said. I asked this question in a different way to a senior devotee, and what he said was that it is okay to go and talk to 10, 15, 20 Vaishnavas and ask them the same question with that broad-minded idea that we are catching them off guard and in whatever bhav they are, they would give an answer. What to talk of going to 20 people, to the same person, if you go 20 times, in their different times of the day, in different situations and with different perspectives, they can also give different answers, right? So first is that of the very important part which is left on us is the decision making, right? That we already saw here. The decision making lies with us. What others can do for us is that they can equip us with knowledge. They can equip us with some solution or answer very specific to our case, right? So then it comes to relations. I could walk in over a guest lecturer and ask them a question, and the best they can do is give me a philosophical answer because they don't know my background, right? And if we go to 10 guest lecturers, we should know that importance of being able to extract the facts from opinions. There are facts, and then based on those facts, there could be an opinion. In my opinion, you should do this. So facts are something that you can accumulate from hundreds of places, and it is very good to accumulate facts. But actually, one thing that I did want to mention over here, this is a very standard, fortunate line of surrender. Any deviation to this, right, that alone creates problems. So if I have that one person, spiritual master, Shiksha Guru, whom I can go to, who knows my case, who understands me, that person can give me the best advice, which is very, very well tailored for me. This is the practical standard answer. If there is a deviation from this, that, oh, I don't have this, oh, I don't have that, then there is no separate line of surrender. This is the line of surrender. So if there is that one person whom we have that relationship where we are going together and they understand my case, and and I have been taking advice from them, that takes us far and wide. Otherwise, what happens is that different things have their own different speeds. If we are still looking for that, then we need to increase our prayer so that Krishna gives us. The devotees are always there, right? But I am lacking that bhav in which I can see them as jackpots walking around me. I'm missing that. So prayer brings that in. Second thing that I wanted to say is, holy name is supposed to be the solution for everything. But until I have gained that purity, it will solve and give all answers to us. It takes time. It takes time. Okay. Actually, holy name is said that even Vaishnava Aprad, it can counteract. But Vaishnava Aprad would be counteracted by holy name, maybe at the way I am doing after doing all Aprads would be maybe hundreds of lifetimes. That's why it's not even counted in one sense, that there's no, if you do Vaishnava Aprad, gone. So most of the problems that happen in sadhana are usually because of offenses. I'm saying it to myself. So those are my few thoughts around that, Mataji. So direct answer was yes. Actually, that verse is very interesting. I heard one of the Prabhupada disciples quote this, Tad Vidhi Pranipatena, right? It says, therefore approach a spiritual master. It says in singular the first line. So there should be one spiritual master, one guru, right? But then the Sanskrit switches to plural. Ubdekshanti te jnanam. Ubdekshanti is plural, that you can gain knowledge from multiple sources. Okay. So, but in either of the cases, the responsibility or decision making should be left with us.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
One question regarding what you just recently just now said. You said about Vaishnava Aparad. But one thing I observe is like there are two kinds of Vaishnava Aparad. One is like intentional, like being little disgruntled and aggressive, and that kind of Vaishnava Aparad. And the other is like Aparads that are mostly committed unknowingly due to our anandhas. There's a lot of envy, pride, jealousy, and this Aparad committed because of mostly it is unintended, but it is still nevertheless an offense. So how can we, because we are still conditioned, so many anarthas are there, how can we relieve ourselves of those that kind of aparadha? And that aparadha is also going to hamper our sadhana and relationship of Krishna and my understanding.
Yes, Mataji. There are, in that sense, the very two categories that you mentioned, right? One takes away from Krishna, one does not take away from Krishna. The one, it's simple. If you see a Vaishnava aparadha, if it is happening because of a deficiency in my attitude, if my attitude is not right, and because of that something manifested, then it's just a matter of time, it will manifest again. And it's not just that it will manifest again. I'm not ready to go back to a place where everybody is super sweet. That is the spiritual world. I'm not ready for that. So Krishna wants to pull me there. So the only way is I have to rectify my tendency, why I am being offensive. Right? So like for many Gyanis, right? Like Saubhari Muni, the tendency was that he was not aware or mindful of being respectful to the devotees. And so his arrogance resulted in Vaishnava aparadha. So that arrogance has to be subdued before they become eligible to go back to Godhead. Otherwise, Vaikuntha also they will create Kuntha. Right? So that will never happen. So because that will never happen, a person who are directly by their tendencies, they are causing this, they have to rectify their attitude. They have to purify their attitude. The other one, like I believe it was Srila Rup Goswami who was chanting, and in his chanting, he is with Krishna, he is in spiritual world, right? But in spiritual world, in some he has entered a leela and he's smiling. I'm forgetting which Goswami it was. It was, I believe, Rup Goswami only. And there was a physically challenged devotee passing from there. Rup Goswami smiled in the Leela. And because he smiled, the Vaishnava took the offense that he's smiling on my inability. Then immediately there was a reaction due to that. And then he was told. So what happened was that even though it was an indirect, unknown, unintentional aparadha, he did not in his consciousness got thrown away from Krishna, right? So he was given that intelligence because sarvasya chaham riddhi sanivishta, right? Mattah smritya jnanam apohanacham. The intelligence also comes from Krishna. So Krishna gives that intelligence to make him aware that, okay, something happened. Unknowingly you did this. Rectify it. And then the Vaishnava will be very happy to rectify that, right? So Krishna will never punish you in that sense by taking himself away from you. He will be there for you as long as much as close we have come to him, right? That's my best understanding. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
We should try to make plan, or we should try to get Krishna's guidance. But most of the time, people understand what Krishna's plan. I mean, sometimes it's like I am not putting enough effort, or I am not putting more endeavor. Sometimes it's difficult, right? This is happening, but is it Krishna's plan or something I am not doing up what I'm supposed to?
Thank you for asking that, Mataji. I was reading this very recently, a discussion between two Vaishnavas. One was I was very impressed by reading that. They were talking about the liberty that God gives us, right? That is the highest gift of God is liberty, to choose what you want to do. And it was one idea was challenging that shouldn't we have that freedom to go ahead and do what we want to do in this society? So the very nice reply that came from Vaishnava, what is this? Krishna's plan is that you understand the basics of spirituality, and the goal, if you make a goal in your life, that should be deeply rooted on the basis of your understanding of Vaishnavism. The goals should not be outside Vaishnavism. The goals should not be outside Vaishnavism, as in that, okay, I went to the temple, I do not know much, but I have a goal. I want to make an organization of $4 billion in next 10 years. This goal does not lie in Vaishnavism, right? But that does not disqualify any goal for that matter. If there was a Vaishnava Sabha and in that Guru Maharaj said you start a company and build it for $10 million, that is coming from Vaishnava, this thing, right? So now you can see the difference. It is not, the demarcation is not based on whether it is a material goal or this thing, but aligned, how much my life and the purpose of my life is aligned to the fundamentals of Vaishnavism. That is one. So it's a very high level, this thing. It's a very big umbrella, Krishna's will. Okay, as long as we are trying to practice as a Vaishnava, that is there. But now when it comes to details, right, it's to my best understanding, it is okay if there are overlaps of sometimes everything I do in my life or on Sundays or whatever, it is all spiritual. On other days, some things are spiritual, some things I do which I feel are material. So the first thing is to be able to clearly see that demarcation that yes, this exists. Sometimes I do this. Intelligence comes first, then how to lose interest into something which is captivating us even in the material, this thing, or the need for it, that is secondary. Okay, that is something, this thing. Other than that, Krishna's will is really not focusing so much on you giving up something, like we said, right? It's not about so much about giving up, let's say, any addiction for that matter. It's about having enthusiasm to take up and execute as much devotional practices as your health allows, your daily routine allows, and then how much or what service I can do in my capacity. The two powerful points before that in sadhana, first is health, and then second is daily routine. The daily routine, as much as you will try to stabilize, that much happiness of sattva you will experience. Another thing I realized is you can never have two endeavors in your life. You can never be like 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, I study this subject because I'm trying to learn this. 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I study this subject, I'm trying to learn this. At any point of time, your endeavor is very focused on one thing only. That's all you can do with so many other moving parts, right? So we should see what is our priority or seek guidance or take that advice from others and or be ready for that sort of anxiety if it is really important. All I'm saying is that in sattva, it can never happen that you are endeavoring for multiple things, especially in spirituality. Because in spirituality, I want to read books, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. You will never have sattva, experience of sattva when you are trying to achieve 4 things. Right? The sattva comes, the sattvic, the peace of mind in daily routine comes from things that you have perfected. You have already read Bhagavatam, you have already read Bhagavad Gita, and now you are just doing revision. This can happen in sattva. Everything else is an endeavor which will require its own churning and hard work and everything. So we should try to reduce that or not bind our definition of fulfillment or satisfaction to those endeavors. I have done that a lot, that I had tons of things that I want to do. If I am not able to do, it doesn't matter how much I am doing, I'm always dissatisfied. Not just dissatisfied, it's damaging me. Right? So that's my understanding. And I believe most of the people who are here, they are all very deeply situated in Krishna's will already. We'll stop here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind audience. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Ram Kumar Prabhu ki jai.
Krishna daily devotees. Let us express our gratitude to Ram Kumar Prabhu by loudly chanting 3 times. Haribo. Ram Kumar Prabhu, prepare us not only for the surrender, also for our lunch prasad. Right? We talked many times about gulab jamun. It is waiting for us upstairs. Truly, today's menu has gulab jamun. One more thing. He also mentions in the means of surrender, the bottom one, the very first one is to serve the temple, right? So we also need help in cleaning up the temple. If you all, after Prasad, if you come for help in cleaning up the temple, that will be really, really wonderful. And let us chant this Mahaprasad prayers before going for Prasad. You will take the Prabhuji.
Mahaprasade Govinde,
Govinde, Namo Brahmani Vaishnave, Swalpa Punyavatam Rajan,
Vishwasune Vijayate,
Vishwasone Vajayate,
Jaja, Jayendriya Kadhika, Srivali Vishesa, Haramate Jivati, Raake Jeta Katin Sansare,
Jeta Katina Samsare,
Krishna Pranayama, Gorivar Jiva Jai,
Divar Jivar,
Samprasadan Dilovar, Seyana Nritupao, Sri Radha Krishna Gunagao, Vimila Kushi Chaitanya Nitai, Jai Nimai, Jai Nitai, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Gopi Jana
ये ऐसे जाना है बार बार नीचे कैसे That's why I was thinking that it's a good test rehearsal for निकालना है कौन सा वाला दोनों
हाँ करेक्ट करेक्ट दैट्स द टाइम आई वेक आई डोंट नो दैट इज दैट मैं जल्दी नहीं आती मैं खुद आता हूँ जाता हूँ हाँ और दुर्गा जी क्या है बोलती थी आप तो बोलती थी क्या कहते हैं